Blog Talk Radio.
Alternative facts.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. At 12:07 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, numerous unidentified objects of unknown intent and unknown origin were detected at high altitudes over multiple locations of Earth's outer space by the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and these objects are presumed to be some form of controlled aircraft. It is not known if more of these aircraft will arrive, or if they will attempt entering Earth's atmosphere. United States citizens are encouraged to monitor local media outlets, as more updates will follow as information becomes available. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. Attacks by the undead have been reported in several states across the country. The dead are rising from their graves and are attacking the human race. At this time, it is expected that more attacks of this nature will occur in several other states in the next few hours. The intent behind their attack is unknown at this time. He has been observed that a or exchange of fluids is a method of transmission. This is an extremely dangerous situation if they crave the taste of human flesh. It is not known whether this event will last for hours, days, or even longer. Stay calm, as authorities have been dispatched to deal with these creatures. An all-clear siren will be sounded when this situation is under control. Pacific Standard Time, nor is detected a long-range nuclear missile launching. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of all residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
Welcome to Within the Chaos with your host, Rodney the Viking Shortridge. I want to give a big old shout out to the Facebook paranormal groups that allow us to post our shows on their pages and helping us to get the word out about all of our guests. If anyone would like to speak to Black Diamond Paranormal Society, BDPS, to discuss your paranormal questions or issues, go to our website at blackdiamondps.org or email blackdiamondps@yahoo.com. As always, our services are free.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. You can listen in by calling 516-387-1922, or you can go to the Vibe Radio Network website at blogtalkradio.com/Vibe Radio Network. For deep within the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for listening to Within the Chaos. My name is Rodney Shortridge, and I'll be your host tonight. First off, I'd like to give a shout out to my cousins up in Ohio, Jennifer and Joe Shortridge of 222 Paranormal. If you get a chance, check out their talk show. You can find them on Facebook under 222 Paranormal.
Have your devices just randomly stopped working? Are you having IT trouble? Not to worry, Mead's PC Repair Shop can help. We also offer IT support too, including website hosting. We are now also offering full event management services. To find out more, contact our friendly customer service team who will gladly help in any situation. Just call 276-880-8900, or if you prefer, you can stop by our shop at 1089 St. Clair Street, Oakwood, Virginia 24631 by appointment only, or by visiting the website at meadspcshop.com for more information. Thank you.
Phantom Fest 2019 is hosted and sponsored by Black Diamond Paranormal Society, Blog Talk Radio within the Chaos and Elk Garden School Community Ministry. The Phantom Fest is geared for the like-minded and enthusiasts and researchers in the fields of the paranormal, UFOs, cryptozoology, comics, horror films, gamers, cosplay, metaphysical, spiritual, artists, authors, ancient civilizations, tattoo artists, unexplained mysteries, superheroes, FX horror artists, steampunk, costume contest, sci-fi and so much more. The fest offers a unique and interesting outlook on the abnormal. The Phantom Fest will be held on November 2nd, 2019 at the Russell County Conference Center 139, Highland Drive, Lebanon, Virginia. Starting at 10 a.m. and going to 6 p.m. Tickets are $7 per person, ages 0 to 6 are free. Or tickets can be reduced to $5 per person with 2 non-perishable food items, to be donated to the Elk Garden School Community Ministry to help families during the Thanksgiving season. Any non-perishable food donations will be happily received. Also, we will have a free costume contest for all ages. Guest speakers, returning this year, Bill and Chris Reap of Reap Investigations, giant researcher Heather Arnold. New to this year's Phantom Fest guest speakers, Dave Spinks, Ron Whitehead, Jake Fife, Chad Zumwalt and Whitney Benson, Amy Green, Barry Gaunt, Cosplay Bridget Baker, CNC Paranormal Investigations, Dennis Estlock, Georgis Girls Heather Taylor and Micah Taylor, Haunted MD Donald Molnar, Lucky Belcamino, Michelle Wagner, and Rebecca Smoot. Special appearances by Cosplay Bridget Baker, Martial Arts Christian Yaya Thompson and Token Nihilist Cosplay, Arthur Stump, Grace Ann Lehman, Raphael Bertiz and the Whiteville Ghostbusters. Find us on Facebook Phantom Fest, www.facebook.com/phantomfest. Our website, www.phantomfest.org. Our email, phantomfest1@yahoo.com. For more information, please contact Rodney Shortridge at 276-970-1456 or Josh Mead at 276-880-8900 extension 1259.
Well, howdy everybody. Hope everybody's having a good night. Seeing how we're a week away from Halloween. I'm always excited about Halloween, but I'm not on this day. This day always keeps me down on the 24th of October, because 27 years ago today is when my dad passed away, and I always have a hard time this time of year, but one of these days it'll get easier, I hope. But you think after 27 years it would, but it still ain't. But enough of that. Tonight we'll try this again, because I know last time we tried to have Melissa on, we had some technical problems, and so far everything seems to be going good now that they've got it fixed. So again, Melisa Kennedy. Melissa is the author of Blood of the Kingdom. She is also a RH theorist, a ufologist, paranormalist, founder and CEO of a new profit organization, UFO Hunters of America, Inc. Also, UFO Hunters of America will be hosting a UFO con in Orlando, Florida. This will be their first ever educational fundraiser on November 9th. For more information, go to the UFOcon.com. So, enough of me now. Let's see if we can get her on. Hello, Melissa, and I hope you can hear me and everything's working.
Hi, Rodney. It's Melisa here in Orlando. How are you?
I keep calling you Melinda. I apologize. I meant Melissa. Sorry. I'm telling you, I'm having a bad day.
Oh, no. That's fine. I always get called Melissa, but it's actually Melisa. And, there's a funny little story about my name if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, and maybe your listeners don't know this, but I was born and raised in West Virginia, and my mother was a concert pianist at West Virginia University, and she played piano for lots of concerts and symphonies and things like that. And when she was younger, she had very long black hair. And when she played the piano, she often was called the Mona Lisa. She looked like the Mona Lisa. Well, when she became pregnant with me, my parents tried to come up with a name because they wanted something different. Well, my dad was kind of stuck on the name Melissa, but my mom likes the name Mona Lisa. So they combined the two and came up with Melisa. So that's how my name got started.
Well, that is awesome. Well, I went to school. I went to school with a couple girls that had their names spelled like that, but they were called Melissa, and that's the reason why I just and until you corrected me, I was kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I messed it up.
Oh, that's okay. It's actually with just one S, so it's spelled a little bit different. It's still like Melissa, but it only has the one S. But, so that's just a little, background story on how my name came about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I always love how people get their names. That's like my name. I'm named after my dad, my first name, but my middle name, which is Rodney, everybody in the family is like, where did that name come from? And apparently it came from some soap opera, Days of Our Lives or something like that my aunt was. And that's who she gave me the name, and my mom's like, okay, we'll go with that.
Oh, so see, everybody has a little story about their name.
Yeah. So I don't know who I'm after, but it's some soap opera.
Well, that's okay. That's a cool story too.
Yeah. Well, not as cool as yours. Yours is much better.
Well, thank you. Well, and what's super cool about it is the fact that the Mona Lisa, of course, is a Da Vinci painting, and all of the speculations about the hidden UFOs and paranormal secrets that are within the Da Vinci paintings, it really makes you wonder, was I destined for this career, for this life that I have? I don't know. Makes you wonder.
Oh, it does. It does. Well, since we're on that topic about you, tell us about yourself and and how you started researching the UFO and the UFO phenomenon.
Oh, my goodness. Well, like I said, I was born and raised in West Virginia. I went to West Virginia University. I graduated with a degree in elementary education. I always wanted to be a teacher. I come from a long line of teachers. My mom was a music teacher in the public schools in West Virginia. My grandmother was a teacher for 35 years. My aunt and uncle, everybody in my family has basically been associated with teaching in some fashion. So it was in my blood to follow their footsteps and go to WVU, graduate a Mountaineer, and get into teaching. Well, when I graduated, I got married right out of college, and my husband at the time wanted to move to Phoenix, Arizona, because that's where his parents were from. And so we moved to Arizona. I lived in West Phoenix, and my very first teaching job was on an Indian reservation. Well, having no knowledge of anything about the Native American culture or anything, really. It was quite an experience for me. It was a very eye-opening experience. And I went into it really, really naive and really not prepared for how much I was going to learn in such a short period of time. I was hired initially to take over their K-12 music program. Even though I have a degree in elementary education, I have a minor in music and had extensive personal music experience, and that was good enough for the school system at that time to hire me on an emergency certificate. So I did. I went ahead and took over a position that needed to be filled for music, and that's how I kind of got my foot in the door in that school system. So, you know, I finished out the year, and then I started to teach what I really wanted to teach, and that was second grade. Well, I started the school year out, and everything was great. We had, you know, Thanksgiving break. Then we have Christmas winter break. And over the right before the Christmas break, we usually would clean our classrooms and stuff real good before we, you know, went home for the holiday. So it was Friday before the Christmas break, and when I came into my classroom, it was filled with grasshoppers. I'm not talking about like one or two, Rodney. I'm talking hundreds. Like they were on top of each other. That's how many there were. And they were just crawling all over my room. Well, I was a little shocked when I opened the door and I saw these grasshoppers. But then again, you know, we were on an Indian reservation out in the middle of the desert. We had outdoor entrances, so we didn't have like an enclosed building, everything open to the outside. And being that we are right in the middle of nowhere and a bunch of wilderness, you know, desert type landscape around us, I wasn't too shocked because I'm like, well, you know, we are out here and insects and stuff are all around. So I didn't give it too much thought. But when some of the natives on the campus said, oh, well, you know, that's a sign of, you know, a lot of folklore, and they started sharing some of the stories about when you see massive amounts of grasshoppers, there's quite a lot of speculation as to what that could mean. So I just kind of took it, you know, and listened, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but I didn't really give it too much thought. Well, over the break, I found out I was pregnant. And when I came back from my Christmas break, we had a couple weeks go by, and I think it was President's Day, or maybe it was a teacher's work day. I can't remember, but we had like a 3-day weekend. And so over the 3-day weekend, I started, you know, noticing a little bit of changes being pregnant, although it was still early on. But, you know, I started to have some little feelings and little changes in how I felt and things like that. So I came back over that 3-day weekend, and this time, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay. Oh, no, it's okay. I was like, oh, did I lose you?
Everybody, it's happening to every show. Google. Thank you, Google, for running another damn show.
Oh, that's okay. So I come back over the 3-day weekend, and now my classroom, are you ready for this, is actually filled with black widow spiders.
Ew.
So I'm like, what the heck's going on? I mean, I've had 2 infestations in my classroom of these insects. Now, the grasshoppers aren't too bad, but black widow spiders, that's not cool. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm talking about in the students' desks. Now, we had all wooden desks. It was a very kind of old school. You know, we had everything like old-fashioned. And they were in their desks. They had built nests. There were babies. They were on my bookshelves. They were on my swamp cooler because we didn't have air conditioning. We had swamp coolers. When I opened the classroom door, there were cobwebs. So I had to immediately go to the intercom and call my principal. And I was like, Mr. Meisler, what do you want me to do? Because, you know, I've got black widow spiders all over the classroom. There's no way I can bring children in here. So he's like, well, just move to the cafeteria. We'll get it fumigated. No big deal. Well, here we go again. I'm hearing from the natives that black widow spiders can mean one of two things, birth or death, depending on a lot of other factors, but it could mean one of those two things. So I'm thinking, oh, well, that's interesting. I just found out I'm pregnant, so okay. So again, I'm like 22 years old. I was not into the UFO community at that point, although I've always been fascinated by it. I certainly wasn't active. I was just, I was a school teacher, 22 years old, newly married. So I didn't give it too much thought, but time started to go, and I started noticing that I became bigger than I should be at that particular time of my pregnancy. And no, I wasn't overeating, and no, I wasn't doing anything that would make me gain weight like that. It just was really fast, and I was very swollen, and to the point that I actually had to start getting maternity clothes at that point. And I was in my first trimester, so there's no reason why I should have had maternity clothes at that phase of my pregnancy. It was too soon. So I'd call my mom, I'd call my grandma, I'd talk to my girlfriends, I'd be like, what is going on? Why am I gaining weight so fast? This doesn't make any sense. And they're like, I don't know, maybe there's something wrong, because that does seem really weird. Well, so I go in, because, when you're early in your pregnancy, you don't go into the doctors a whole lot, but usually you'll go in, you'll get a blood test and things like that. So I find out I'm Rh negative. Now, I kind of already knew that because back in middle school, we had done, I don't know if you guys did this, Rodney, at your school, but, we did like in science class how you prick your finger and you find out what your blood type is, and, you talk about it in science class. Well, I remember being the only kid with Rh negative blood. Now, if you don't know what Rh negative means, everybody is either positive or negative. 85 to 90% of the world is Rh positive, meaning that you have the rhesus protein in your blood. Rh negative is about 10% of the population. Now, it used to be 15, but it's actually going down. So it's only about 10% of the world. So my blood type is extremely rare. In fact, it's so rare that when a Rh negative mother is pregnant with a positive father, you have to have what's called ROGAM shots, which is basically like a vaccine type shot where it protects the baby from the mother attacking the fetus, because to me the Rh positive fetus is alien to my body. And yes, I use the word alien because it's not supposed to be there. An Rh positive and an Rh negative is not supposed to mix. And so much so that the Rh negative mother will attack the fetus fatally because it is a foreign object. So I agreed to get the shot and proceeded with, what the doctor told me to do, eat well, all this other stuff. Well, I went back home, and a couple weeks had gone by, and something just told me that I was just getting too much weight gain, and I was swelling. I was starting to get some pain in my stomach, and I didn't know, but my intuition told me, you know what, Melisa, something is not right. Well, on March 10th, which was a Monday, I go in on my own free will. I did not have an appointment, but I went in on my own, took the day off from school, and I demanded that they do an ultrasound or something because I just knew something wasn't right. Well, come to find out, the baby was growing not where it should have been, and it was much bigger than it should have been at that point. So I didn't have a choice but to have the baby removed, and if I hadn't, I was told that it was going to be fatal to me, and I could, have internal bleeding and things like that because the baby was actually growing outside of the uterus. It was actually on the fallopian tube, which is really rare, really, really rare, and really, scary, actually. But the baby was so much bigger than what it should have been at that point in time, and they were really surprised that it had gotten the size that it was. Well, I didn't question anything. I'm not a doctor. I just assumed that everything was being told to me accurately. Didn't question it. They put me out, did the procedure, and when I came through, I was fine. Like I didn't have any pain. I didn't feel anything. It was really kind of strange, actually. So that was a Monday, and I thought the whole thing really was weird. I don't remember a whole lot more about that day because like I said, I was kind of out. I was out of it for a while, but then it was such a traumatic event. It wasn't what I was expecting to hear, and so I just didn't really ever have a lot of closure about it. But it was very strange, and I just remember leaving the hospital thinking that something just still wasn't quite right. Well, 3 days later, there is a very famous UFO event that happened that I witnessed, and that was the Phoenix Lights. And that happened 3 days after this happened to me with my pregnancy. I remember seeing the Phoenix Lights from my backyard. I lived on a golf course. It wasn't like anything fancy, but I just happened to live on a golf course. It was, that type of environment in Phoenix where a lot of golf courses were. And so I lived there, and I had a big tree kind of on the side of my house that blocked part of the sky, but I could still see the Phoenix Lights coming. And I remember seeing the reddish, kind of looked like fireballs to me. But then again, I didn't have probably as good a shot as some people, but I remember thinking that the sky was on fire. And I called my grandmother in West Virginia, and I'm like, Mamaw, I don't know what's going on. I'm really scared. It looks like, I don't know if it's a bomb. I don't know if it's fire. I don't know what's going on, but there's something going through the sky, and it's a reddish, it looks like fire color. And I was like, I'm really scared. I love you. I don't know what's going to happen. But I was freaking out. I was 22. I just had this really traumatic event happen to me. And then the Phoenix Lights happened. Well, all of this is really interesting because almost 25 years later, in fact, it was only about a month ago, I found out another piece to this puzzle that really starts to make sense to me. And that was, and I found this out from a very reputable source in Phoenix, Arizona, that knows a lot about this topic. And I was told that the Indian reservation that I was teaching at and that I got pregnant at is a known alien portal. So I have to ask myself, what happened exactly? Was I pregnant naturally, or could it be something else? I don't know. I may never know the answer. But I really wonder if there's something more to that story, because everything doesn't really add up in my head as far as the pregnancy, how big the baby got when it wasn't even in the right place, which doesn't make any sense. How was it getting the nutrients? How were things growing naturally the way they should if it wasn't in the right place? That's never made any sense to me. And the fact that I had all of those kind of signs, I guess you could say, with the infestation of the black widow spiders, the grasshoppers, the Phoenix Lights, there was an awful lot of strange, odd things going on that all correlated and connected to my pregnancy. And then I find out 20-some years later that where I was teaching and where I would go by myself in a car through the desert to go to work, it's quite possible I could have been abducted. I don't remember, but I know one thing. I want to go through some sort of hypnosis and see if I can remember details. And that would maybe give me some answers and give me some closure. But I would say that that's been really and truly my first exposure or my first experience with UFOs, with paranormal, with things that I cannot explain. And ever since then, I have been on this mission, this quest to find the truth about Rh negative blood, where it comes from, what is going on with these mysterious portals. Why are we having UFOs? Why are we seeing them? Why aren't we getting answers? And that has been my mission ever since. And really the last 4 to 5 years, it's been almost a full-time obsession and career for me, and has led me, well, to this show tonight and to many other projects that I have going on. My UFO con I have coming up. I've written a book. I have 3 more on the way. I have a magazine. I have weekly events here in Orlando that I hold, and it really has set the stage for this just ongoing quest for me to find the truth. So hopefully that wasn't too hard to follow, but it really is the starting point for why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Wow. Well, I know the Phoenix Lights. I used to drive truck cross country, and I had just came out of Phoenix when I heard on the radio reports of the lights and everything that was going on. And I looked. A bunch of truckers did stop, and we looked back that way. We didn't see anything, but later on you see the reports and the video and the pictures and all that. I don't know what happened, but the military says it was some kind of testing. I don't agree with that. Something did happen. Because I've had other things happen to me going to Phoenix. When I was coming from what's north of Phoenix? I forgot that town.
Flagstaff?
Yeah, Flagstaff. I was coming down from Flagstaff into Phoenix, and I seen a big ball of light just shoot by the truck up in the sky. And I didn't really think much about it until I seen 2 jets follow right behind it, with their afterburners on, trying to catch up to it. And I'm like, well, because I've seen meteors, I've seen stuff like that fall from the sky, and I thought it was quite big, but they were actually chasing it.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of weird activity going on out in Arizona, that's for sure. And
Arizona, Mexico, and Utah. Whew, those 3 states are all.
Absolutely. Well, what's funny is my friend Dave Spinks. I don't know if you've had him on the show, but he's big paranormal. Yeah, Dave's a good friend of mine, and we of course have connected with UFO Con. He's going to be one of my guests here, and I just published his most recent book, The Real West Virginia UFOs. That's actually published with my company. And he and I have talked extensively about this whole Phoenix Lights. And what's funny is he was there, he saw the Phoenix Lights, and here we are 20-some years later, and we've connected. And so it really makes you start to wonder, all these people that are in my life right now, or that I am being currently introduced to, it seems like we all have this really odd connection. We have either experienced some of the same exact things but didn't know each other at that time, or we just have some common thread that links us all to this UFO community, this paranormal, and it's just, it's getting unbelievable. My checklist of all these connections that I have with these people, it's not coincidence. It's definitely a synchronicity happening here, but it just makes you wonder why, why 20-some years later am I making these new friends that also saw the Phoenix Lights. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, it is, and I agree with you. Dave, he's going to be coming to our Fan Fest, and
okay.
And
good. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. I'd like for you, if you could, if you wasn't busy, get you up here. But love to have anybody who wants to come and talk.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, this year I'm going to be a little too busy, but I'm hoping to get on your schedule next year. Great.
That'd be great.
We're 2 weeks until UFO Con. It's November 9th on a Saturday here in Orlando, just minutes from Walt Disney World. We're in a 5-star hotel. It's called the Omni, and we're really excited to be bringing in really some of the biggest names in the UFO community. I have Nick Pope coming, who is the British UFO investigator for their government. For years, he was with them. He's a fantastic speaker. Cannot wait to get him here. I have Stephen Bassett. He is wonderful with like all of the exo-politicians and things like that. He's really responsible for a lot of disclosure that's happening in Washington, D.C., so I'm really excited about him. We have Kathleen Martin, and if you don't know who she is, she's a fantastic lady. She is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, which was the first alien abduction case, so that's a really cool thing. I also have Terry Keel, and she is the state director for Florida for MUFON. She's also a really very dear friend of mine. She's going to be there. Of course, we have Dave Spinks. So it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a fun-filled day and a lot of educational things going on. And so I'm excited, really excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anytime you're trying to educate people, let people at least talk about their experiences and get them together to chit-chat, I always find it amazing because, like you said, there is some kind of common thread that people that have been scattered across the country or even the world have been at present or near locations where something like the Phoenix Lights has happened. And then, like you said, 20-some years later, you're finding out, wow, you were there too?
Oh, I know.
You're from Virginia, and you was in Phoenix, Arizona at that time? What the hell? Well, I drove a truck cross country, and you was a teacher, so.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy, and it's just, I don't know. It just makes you wonder. You just scratch your head. It's like, well, gosh, are we being brought together now for a reason? And if so, what is the reason? Are we here to help others open their minds and open their eyes to the possibilities of the UFO, the extraterrestrial, and the paranormal? I mean, is that our mission here? I like to think I'm one of the voices to help teach, the public, whether it's the public that is already into these things and already have knowledge, or if it's the new person just kind of exploring it for the first time. I like to think that, I'm still a teacher. I'm just not teaching second grade anymore. So I'm really fortunate, and I'm very, very grateful for all the support that I've had. I'm grateful to be on your show and all the opportunities that I have been given so far and things I've got planned for the future. And just to have these chances to reach out to somebody. And, if I just reach one person, then to me that was a job well done, and maybe I got somebody to look at something differently and think of things in a different way, and pick up a book, read something about the paranormal or the UFO community. That was partly my reason for writing my book. It's the first book of a trilogy. And I chose not to do nonfiction, but rather to write a fiction story so that I could reach all of the generations, particularly the youth, because they are such sponges that really need to have their minds expanded into these possibilities of the paranormal and the UFO community. And maybe they haven't gotten it at home, but maybe they've dabbled in some TV shows, or maybe they've heard some things. And so I wanted to really reach out to that demographic in particular with a young adult fiction book series. But what's funny is anybody that knows me or knows my story or anything like that, you're going to find so much of Melisa Kennedy in this book. It is me, actually. A lot of this main character's story in her life is actually my life. And my main character's name is May Morgan. May is short for Mabel. Mabel was actually my great-grandmother's name. And the whole entire story takes place in West Virginia, where I grew up, a little town called Bridgeport. And Bridgeport, West Virginia, is a small little town. It's honestly the best town to grow up in. It is small enough to have neighbors and friends, and you know everybody that you go to school with. But yet it was big enough to where, we had a nice selection of restaurants, we had a mall, we had things to do, we had a movie theater and things like that. So it really was a great place to grow up. Bridgeport High School, my alma mater, the whole story takes place there. May Morgan's an 18-year-old senior at that high school. And I really took a lot of what I went through as a teenager and put it into this story. But then I incorporated what I now know about Rh-negative blood, about extraterrestrials, about UFO presence, and I weaved it into this story about an 18-year-old in a small town in West Virginia, and I created this new dystopian trilogy that really addresses a human struggling for survival when an invasion by an alien race comes in the near future. And May Morgan really becomes a superhero in this storyline. And I don't know. I'm hoping that it really reaches some of these these teenagers and moms alike. I mean, I've had several people tell me that it's similar to, a Twilight or a Hunger Games type, series where it's action. There's a little bit of romance in there. There's a little bit of fear factor. I mean, I try to put a lot of different things in the book so that it kept everyone's interest, and it really wants you to grab that next book and see what happens. There's a series of deadly games that they call Genesis games, and what the extraterrestrial race does is they start manipulating DNA, and they start creating these hybrid humans. And then they have them fight because they want to see, which one's going to be the strongest, which one's going to have the most physical traits, which one's going to be the most intellectual. And they're really trying to create like this new hybrid. And so they have these Genesis games that they play out. And, it becomes gruesome. It becomes tragic. And May Morgan is Rh negative, and she's trying to figure out how in the world can she save humanity from the threat of this extraterrestrial race. And it really becomes a sci-fi thriller and an action-packed story all kind of rolled into one. But name of that is Blood of the Kingdom, and the first book is called Breaking Truth.
Wow, that sounds awesome. But I do have a question about the Rh-negative blood. Within your research, have or any other scientists, do they know where it actually came from?
Yes, there is a lot of evidence that it is going straight back to the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki, I've really been researching a lot lately. I have weekly events at Books A Million, and they've had the last 2 weeks. I've had a continuing storyline of the Anunnaki and how they did manipulate our DNA to become really and truly a slave species, because the Anunnaki came here in search of gold, and they needed to mine the gold for their own technology purposes, because where they came from, they didn't have any more gold. They needed more gold. And so the Anunnaki really used the human race as, this working class, so to speak. And they manipulated the DNA of the existing humans that were on the planet to create an obeying, disciplined, airy type race that they could manipulate into a working class. And, it begs the question, are we still part of that? I mean, are we still in this cycle of DNA experimentation? And I think there's an awful lot of evidence to suggest yes. And are we being groomed for another type of human species? I mean, are we evolving into another, version of ourselves? And if so, why? For what reason? Why is the Rh negative bloodline dwindling? Well, I can tell you for one of the main reasons is the fact that the Rh negative and the Rh positive don't mix. So if you think of take two animal species and they try to procreate, I mean, a lot of times it's not going to happen. You're going to have, a result in a sterile infant of some sort, or you're not even going to be able to procreate at all. And so it makes you wonder, well, why in the world is the Rh negative blood type not able to successfully have the Rh positive baby without medical help? I mean, it really doesn't make sense unless there is the reason, which is the alien DNA, which doesn't mix. I mean, it's not a mutation. It's not coincidence. I mean, it's none of those things. It really and truly is that it's a different type of blood that doesn't mix. And if I were to get a transfusion of Rh positive blood, it would kill me. So, it's just a very strange anomaly that occurs in our humanity, and it makes you wonder why. And there's been some really interesting physical traits and personality traits and mental traits that are real specific to Rh negative blood types. And some of those are a heightened intuition and psychic ability. Well, I've always had really strong gut feelings. I've always had a very strong intuition, but I never really thought too much about it, until in the last 4 or 5 years when I've really been researching this extensively. And recently, my psychic ability is starting to actually waken up, and I'm starting to actually be able to have clairvoyance and have some psychic abilities that I've never had before. I'm 47 years old, and I've never had these abilities before. But in the last few months, I can honestly say I've documented evidence that I've been able to use psychic abilities that I didn't have before. So that makes you wonder. There's other things such as, well, here's a really cool thing. Rh negative people cannot be cloned. So just think about that for a minute. Cannot be cloned. Why is that? Well, there's something in our DNA that is preventing it from being cloned. So that's a really odd anomaly. Why is that? There's a couple other really interesting traits. I'm trying to think. Some of the things like blood pressure, body temperature, they're a little bit different from Rh positive. You can have an extra vertebrae or an extra rib, which is, again, an odd thing. A lot of the tracing back of the bloodline, there is a high concentration, about 30 to 35% of the population in a place called Basque, and that's in the northern part of France. There's about a 30 to 35% of that little town's population is Rh negative, which is very, very high concentration of Rh negative. There is what's called, the Rh negative is often called blue blood. I'm sure you've probably heard that word before, that description, blue blood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, blue blood is because the Anunnaki, when they bled, their blood was not red, it was blue. It was blue because it's copper-based. Rh positive is red-based. Well, if you were to look at an Rh negative person's blood next to a positive, it would have more of a bluish tint. Now, I'm not talking about real blue. I mean, don't think not like blue, but I mean, it does have more of a tinge, a bluish tinge to it. Now, what's interesting about that is that you can trace the bloodline from the Anunnaki through France, through a lot of the kings, into England, into the British royal family is all Rh negative. I don't know if you knew that or not, but the entire British royal family is Rh negative. And here's a really interesting fact. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Every U.S. president since Eisenhower has Rh negative blood. I'm talking about every one of them. I don't care if you're talking about Clinton. I don't care if you're talking about Trump. I don't care if you're talking about Obama. All of them, Rh negative blood. Google it. It's a very interesting fact. So then you have to wonder, well, if that's true, then, is there still a presence of the Anunnaki? And if so, why and how? Or is it another, race of extraterrestrials that is tinkering with our DNA? I happen to think there's several. Personally, this is my own opinion, but I think there's several alien races that are manipulating our DNA for their own personal agendas. I think we have been allowed to be abducted. I think there has been permission given by the government or whoever the powers that be. I think there has been some sort of an agreement that, yes, you can abduct our people in exchange for technology. I really do believe that. I think that there has just been this ongoing agreement, and I think that's why there hasn't been a whole lot of things going on as far as reactions that they have given the public to have knowledge of this stuff. I think it's kind of been kept secret because they don't want people to know that, hey, this is happening, and we know it's happening, and we're not doing anything about it. That's just my own opinion, but that's what I think. And I think that, I think there's a real possibility that the Rh negative bloodline could, in fact, dwindle out. I mean, I think there's a real possibility of that happening. And that would be sad in a lot of ways because we might actually miss some vital information to our true origins. I mean, if a whole, part of our civilization kind of dwindles out and goes extinct, we won't have that DNA to study because, remember, we can't be cloned. So it's not like they can reproduce, an Rh negative person to find out. So it makes you wonder, There's been some other really, really famous Rh negative people. Tesla was an Rh negative person. Tesla was Rh negative. There's been quite a lot of, I would say, leaders and scholars and people that have really kind of made an impact on human history. A lot of them were Rh negative, not all of them, but I mean there were quite a few substantial people in history, and it's kind of interesting to research that. And it makes you wonder, why were those people? Were they chosen? Was it their destiny? Was it coincidence? I don't think it was coincidence, but it does make you wonder, makes you think.
Well, seeing how there's so few of the Rh negatives, is there some type of organization or people that may be trying to get the Rh negatives to, mate with each other to keep the Rh negative DNA going?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if there is. I haven't heard of any. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't personally heard of any. Certainly if you had two Rh negative people have a child, that would be ideal because then that child obviously is going to inherit that Rh negative. I ended up having a daughter. I was successful in having a pregnancy finally. But my daughter's Rh positive because my husband was positive. And so typically the blood type is inherited through the father. I inherited my Rh negative from my father. I have no brothers or sisters. So my bloodline just stopped. So there will be no more Rh negative bloodline in Melisa Kennedy's family. I'm it. I'm the last one of that bloodline. One of my best friends, she's Rh negative. She's 40 and she never had children. So guess what? That Rh negative bloodline just ended. I know of another person who is Rh negative. She had a positive baby, so her bloodline just ended. I just gave you 3 scenarios of people that I know that the bloodline quit. So I really predict that, sometime in the, I don't know, maybe 100 years or so, maybe 200 years, there may not be any Rh negative left. And that could be really sad because, like I said, there could be some real important history and important information that ends up dying out.
Who are there any doctors or scientists that actually researching this, and so that way they can document this, and in case something like that does happen, if the Rh negative goes extinct?
Well, to my knowledge, and now this is just in the circle of people that I know, I'm the only Rh negative theorist that is doing anything like this in my circle of friends and the UFO community. Are there other people that's researching it? Maybe. I've Googled it and I haven't seen anybody but my own name pop up. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, there certainly could be, scientific laboratories at a university someplace that maybe is secretly, studying this. I haven't seen a whole lot of active science going on about this. I really think it's a subject matter that has been touched on lightly. I know I've seen it on TV shows a couple times, but it's always just kind of a touch and go thing. It's never been a full episode on any TV show. It hasn't been, out here in the forefront like I think it should be. Maybe, who knows, maybe somebody will listen to this and give me a call and say, hey, let's do a show on this because it's important. But I'm making discoveries all the time. For instance, tonight at my Books A Million event, I had discovered and shared a bit of information about the Anunnaki that I didn't even know until earlier today when I was putting together my presentation. I came across with some really interesting research, and that was when the Anunnaki was manipulating our DNA. Originally, they had made all of the human hybrids sterile. They couldn't reproduce. And then the 2 Anunnaki gods, the brothers, Enki and Enlil, they had an argument over whether or not they should tamper with the DNA anymore. And Enki really was kind of more of a friend to humans rather than his brother. His brother was kind of bad, and he really didn't care about the humans. He really just wanted to use them as a workforce and, basically just saw us as a bunch of cattle, really. But Enki really wanted to give humanity, kind of more of a purpose, wanted us to have more of a conscience, wanted us to have feelings and things like that, and gave us the ability then to reproduce, which we didn't have previously. So then that got me thinking, wait a second. I can't reproduce with an Rh positive without the help of medical intervention, which kind of makes me wonder, because if the Anunnaki had made this one particular line of human species sterile to where they couldn't reproduce, and then all of a sudden they have ones that do, could that possibly, I don't know, but I mean, could that possibly have a link to the Rh negative as to why we can't produce with the other type of human? I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thought process, but there might be something to that.
Well, I agree, but if you have a species that can't reproduce, how are they going to reproduce anyway? How would there be more of them to reproduce?
Well, they didn't. The Anunnaki originally didn't want us to, because they didn't want us to pass knowledge on to the next generation. They really just wanted us as a workforce. They didn't want us to be intelligent. They didn't want us to have experiences that we could share and educate the next generation. That was really the initial goal. But then, like I said, Enki decided that, hey, I really think we should make these humans to where they can reproduce, and they can have a consciousness, and they can have emotions, and they can have intellectual, and the gods really fought over that, and they didn't like it at all, because they were like, oh my gosh, you're going to create chaos, and they're not going to listen, they're not going to take orders, they're going to question, and all this other stuff, and it really became kind of a sore spot there between the two brothers, and I think ultimately divided the two. But I don't know, this whole thing with the Rh negative, it's just, oh my gosh, it's fascinating. I find more and more connections with different royal families. There's even speculation that Jesus had Rh negative blood. I haven't come to that conclusion yet. I'm still researching that, and I really like to get 2 to 3 different confirmations before I really adopt that as part of my theory. But there's been quite a lot of speculation as to where this bloodline, originated from, where it's gone in history, what kind of impact it's had. I don't know. It is quite interesting. You'll have to have me back on the show in a few months and see if I came up with anything new. But so far, that's what I've come up with.
That's no problem, because most of my guests, I have to schedule them to come on in a few months later, because they got so much to talk about. I can't get it all in 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
So where did the Anunnaki, I mean, since we kind of, we started down this road, where did they come from, the Anunnaki? And I know one of the purposes was why they were here was for the gold. But how long did they stay here on Earth? And where's the evidence that's showing that they were here on Earth?
Right. Well, if you go and you look at the ancient Sumerian texts, it talks extensively about the Anunnaki. It even talks about the Anunnaki King's List, or the Sumerian King's List. And that King's List is literally a data tablet, and it is full of documented royalty, the kings that existed, and how long their reign was. And this tablet, or this King's List, believe it or not, it is 266,000 years old. So that just blows every timeline that we've ever been taught, ever been told, ever believed right out of the water. Because now we're talking about civilization 266,000 years ago. And it's believed that the Anunnaki arrived on Earth anywhere from 3 to 400,000 years ago. So it really is like a pre-Adamite period in history where the Anunnaki were the real origins of what happened here on Earth. And now I've heard two different stories as to where the Anunnaki came from. I'll tell you the stories that I've heard, but I don't, I can't say for certain which one is correct, because there's still an awful lot of speculating going on. One is that they came from the planet Nibiru, and the other one is that they came from another dimension. So pick which one you want to go with, because, really and truly, there's two kind of separate places. Nibiru is really, the planet in another solar system, which would make sense if you are thinking in terms of spaceships and things like that. If they came from another dimension, did they also come in a spaceship with that, I don't know. There's an awful lot of technology that they left behind. One of which is their use of sound frequencies, resonance, quartz crystals. They used a lot of stone circles in South Africa. This is a fascinating fact about South Africa, which I didn't even know had this many. But South Africa, which is really the area in which they believe the Anunnaki, Mesopotamia, that whole region through there is just filled with archaeology and all this ancient civilization knowledge. One of these days, I hope to take a field trip there. But South Africa is just fascinating because they have over 10 million stone circles. 10 million. I can't even wrap my head around that. That's a lot of stone circles. And these stone circles are in a variety of shapes, sizes, arrangements, patterns. And what they have found is that these stone circles are what the Anunnaki built that patterned the sound frequencies coming out of Mother Earth. And you have to wonder, well, why would they replicate the frequencies coming out of the Earth in the patterns that they're coming out of Earth as? And why would they go to all this trouble to put these stones here? And there's specific types of stones. And why would they go to all this trouble to create these patterns that are the sound frequencies coming from Earth? Well, I can answer that. It's because it was technology. They were enhancing. They were raising the vibrational level of those frequencies in those exact patterns coming out of Mother Earth. And they use that for frequency technology that we don't even quite understand today. We're just starting to find out about this. It's kind of a form of a laser technology, except lasers, we think of lasers as light, light beams. But this is what's called Phaser. And Phaser technology is sound technology, and that is what the Anunnaki mastered. And they used these stone circles to really amp up those sound frequencies coming out of the Earth. And I'm confident that they were using it for, like power grids. They were using it to power up their technology.
So
did I lose you on that one? Did you drop the mic?
No, you didn't lose. No, you didn't lose me because I'm fascinated with like ancient civilizations and ancient sites where there are these megalithic sites that we can't create today or build today. And, they're saying 10, 20,000 years ago that these people were able to do it. Do you think that any technology as far as the Anunnaki or some other alien visitors may have helped us create some of these megalithic sites that's, scattered throughout the planet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always laugh when I look at, the history books, the stories, all of the stuff that's been just shoved down our throats for years and years about how we are supposed to believe that these cave-like men that are walking around in loincloths are pulling these big boulders into these fantastical, technologically, mathematically impossible building structures thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. We're supposed to believe that these really early man was smart enough to have the technology and the knowledge to build these ancient civilizations that we can barely understand today, and certainly can't even move those boulders with the caterpillar machinery that we have today. I mean, you have to really, I don't know, that's a really big pill to swallow, because on the one hand, you're trying to paint the picture that these, ancient peoples weren't real intelligent. They were very much cave-like, and they were kind of almost barbaric. But yet on the second hand, you want me to believe that they were intelligent enough to create these pyramids and all of these ancient buildings. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. They've had.
You're right. That's a hard pill to swallow when you're talking about, 1,000 tons that we can't lift today hardly with the equipment we have, and you're going to tell me they did it with ropes and pulleys?
Oh yeah, rope and pulleys. Here we go. We're going to use rope and pulleys. Oh, and I love the little drawings that, I don't know if you remember as a kid, because I do, the little drawings that we would see in the books and stuff that they would teach us. They would have these guys in loincloths with ropes over their shoulder, and they're pulling these huge megalithic stones, and they were on top of these wooden wheels. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you put that much ton weight on top of a wooden wheel, the wooden wheel is going to be disintegrated. There's no way that that's going to happen. It's not going to work. It's not going to move. It doesn't work. They've actually proven it and shown it to not work. And so we have to stop believing that crazy theory that these ancient peoples were walking around carrying rocks with a rope, and they're getting them, stacked perfectly to where you can't even put a piece of paper in between them, and the right angles are so perfect, and their laser cut accuracy, and the mathematical equations, and all of these hidden secrets and knowledge embedded in all of these things. And it's not just in one place, but all over the world. And these cultures didn't have the internet. They weren't picking up the cell phone saying, "Hey, George, you know what? Here's what we did. We're going to text you the floor plan of this pyramid we just built." I mean, it's so far-fetched to even believe it. I'm kind of surprised it's taken us this long to question it.
Well, you were raised in coal country, just like I'm raised in coal country.
I was. Yep.
And it takes 300 to 350 million years for the plants and everything to turn into coal.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Right.
Now, I've seen, and I've read this a few times, about in Russia, one of their coal mines back in the 80s, they found impressions of, like, wagon wheels in the coal. Now, when the coal miners, sent it in, and then the government came in and checked it out, they shut the mines down and buried it. And I've read other stories where across the world where an iron little pot was actually found in coal, and also in brass bell that was embedded in coal that was found with markings on it that they today they don't know what it is and where it came from. What's your opinion, or have you even your thoughts on that? Especially being raised around coal, knowing that all this stuff can be found in coal.
Right. It is an interesting concept. I hadn't heard about the Russian incident that you were just mentioning. I don't know. It makes you wonder. Did these were there tunnels maybe that were accessed by a form of extraterrestrial race that maybe was using the underground tunnel system maybe for hiding, or maybe they live under there? I know that there's been a lot of talk about extraterrestrials under the earth. Well, what better place than one of the coal mines? Or, someplace like that. I mean, that does kind of make you wonder if that wasn't the case. I don't know. I'm not really sure because I think there could be a couple of explanations to that. I don't know really any direct theories or anything like that for that reason, but I do think there's a lot of stuff going on, both man-made and man-driven, but I also think there's a lot of extraterrestrial things going on that we don't know about. And what better place, and I hate to say this, but honestly, what better place to hide something than like a place like West Virginia? I mean, think about all the Appalachian mountains and stuff. I mean, we don't know what's underneath those mountains. We don't know what's been dug out under there. Nobody knows. There could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tunnels that are interconnected that, could be used anywhere from mining reasons to, who knows? I mean, are they hiding extraterrestrials down there? Or I know that did you hear about that one incident? And I hate that I forgot the guy's name, but there was a gentleman that, I think he was maybe part of a government operation. I'm not sure. Maybe he was military. I don't know. But he was in an underground tunnel, and he was with a group of engineers, and they encountered a race of extraterrestrials down there. Do you know what story I'm talking about?
No, I don't think I've heard this one.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I apologize to the gentleman that I'm speaking of because I think he's deceased now. But anyway, there was a gentleman that was an engineer, and he was part of this project, and they were down in a tunnel, and I want to say it was like Utah or Nevada or somewhere like that, and they were down and they encountered a whole race of extraterrestrials. I mean, there was like open fire, and I mean, it was like an all-out battle, and he came out later and was kind of a whistleblower and talked about it, and then all of a sudden he was wound up dead. It was like a big conspiracy thing, and which really, when you stop and think about that, well, if there's any truth to that at all, it really makes you wonder, well, what is being hidden beneath our feet? There's all kinds of places, especially up where you are, that can be really concealed for lots of reasons. You could have hidden technology, you could have hidden extraterrestrials, you could have laboratories, experiments, all kinds of stuff that could be going on. You could be, harvesting resources, and, nobody would be the wiser. Nobody would even know.
Well, yeah, I know I've had quite a few guests on this that have spoken on the issue of aliens that live, underground, center of the earth type thing, and under the ocean. A lot of them say they're not from, they're not just from out space. They're actually living here underground, like I said, under the water. So it's amazing that, like you said, we've got all this going on, and it's right under our noses, and no one's really paying attention except people like you, me, and the guests I have on that's actually stepping back and looking, going, "What the hell is going on? Why is this happening? What?"
Well, I'm gonna flip this right back to the Anunnaki, and it was part of my presentation tonight, and that was the Anunnaki. There's a theory that they enslaved the human race, and the human race actually took an oath of allegiance to the Anunnaki. In other words, they vowed to not question or do anything, do as you're told, and don't differ between what we're saying and what you want to think. Don't think on your own. Don't have free will. Just do as you're told. Work what you're supposed to do, and then that's it. That's your whole life purpose. And it kind of makes you think about how submissive, really and truly, how submissive the human race is. And I'm going to give an example. Let's take, for example, a law that just got passed in our government. do most of us really care? Are most of us even paying any attention? Or do we just say, oh, yes, okay, that's good. You know, we're very passive. We're very submissive. And until somebody really stands up and takes action and really is brave to go against the system and say, you know what, this isn't right. We need to change, so and such. Until somebody stands up against it, we as a whole are very passive and submissive as a human race. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. So until that happens and until we start to raise our consciousness as a human race and we start to say, you know what, we need to question where we came from, what are we doing right now, and where in the world are we going from here? What is our purpose? Why are we here? What are we doing? Where did we come from? And what do we want the future to look like? Because really and truly, that is our reality. And as a whole planet, and I'm really hoping one of my personal goals and dreams for the human race is that we come together as a human race, as planet Earth, and we say to ourselves, we want more. We deserve better than this. We should not be, caught in this vicious cycle, and we really need to stop and question what's going on. Are we being led to manipulating DNA? Are we being abducted on our own will, or are we being, basically, thrown out here to the wolves by the government or whoever, and they're just giving free will to do this, and we have no say in the matter. So you have to really, you have to stop and get knowledgeable first. I mean, you have to reach that point, and I think the mass majority of people aren't quite there yet. I think it's starting to trend, and it's starting to tip that way. I think as we do more shows like this, and those of us that are already involved, we become more and more outspoken. I think that trend is going to take off. But until we reach a tipping point where over 50% of the population is on board with getting the answers, I don't see where a whole lot of change is going to happen. But I'm hoping that that's going to change here real soon. And I think, with recent disclosure, I love about, 2 or 3 weeks ago, finally, and this is funny because I think it's the only time in history both CNN and Fox News actually said the same thing, but they both reported that the government finally said that those UFO videos were real. Oh my gosh, I about fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe it. My friend Nick Pope, he was actually one of the guys that they interviewed about that. And these UFO videos that the Navy guys were taking, they're kind of old videos, but nonetheless, at least there's some acknowledgement, and at least it's on the two major news networks, and that was really cool. And being down here in Florida, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so much talk about these underwater USOs. We call those USOs, not UFOs, but USOs. And the fact that there could be underwater bases and that there's so many sightings going on down here. Really and truly, we're one of the top states, not as much as California, but we're still one of the top states for sightings.
What amazes me, we know so much about space, the moon, but we don't really know that much about our ocean.
Oh, we know what I think it was, like 10% or something. I mean, it's so small. Yeah. That's not a lot. I mean, it's like what a perfect place to hide if you're an extraterrestrial. I'm just going to hang out in these deep waters where the humans think nothing can survive. So if I get down deep enough, if I'm down deep enough, nobody's going to find me anyway.
Yeah, and plus,
it's like
everybody's gonna be around looking.
Yeah, I mean, what a perfect hide and go seek place, So.
Oh wow.
Well, what
Blows
about
my mind.
Antarctica? Antarctica is another one. Oh my gosh, we could have a whole show, Rodney, just on Antarctica.
I would love that. I've been trying to find somebody to talk to me about Antarctica, and everybody I tried to get on the show that I know they have some expertise about it, they won't talk. They're like, no, thank you.
Oh, really? Huh. That's interesting.
I don't know why.
Makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own theories about Antarctica. I think, here this continent is that isn't close to really anything else. It's supposedly covered in ice, but yet we have almost every major superpower in the world with a military presence there. I mean, what are we guarding against? The polar bears? I mean, what? Why do you need a military presence in a continent that nobody lives in? And there's no threat.
And there's no animals, so there's no polar bears.
Yeah, there's no, I know, I was just being silly, but I mean, there's literally nothing there. So then you have to say to yourself, okay, there must be something there. And what is that? Well, if it's not people, it's not animals, you're kind of only left with one other option, and that's extraterrestrials. And again, what a perfect place. What a perfect place to hide.
Well, see, there's a map, I think, on the Google machine. This map maker from Spain, and he's made these.
Yeah.
He's, his maps are like, are the greatest at the time. And like I can say, where it showed greenery and animals and everything at Antarctica. So, what did he see that we don't see now? And we're only talking about 500 years.
Right. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, isn't it the one that really the only way that they could have drawn that map is if it was from an aerial view?
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about? Okay. Yeah, exactly. So what happened? Why did it all of a sudden ice over? And Hitler had a big interest in Antarctica. In fact, he sent several of his guys to Antarctica to try to find out what was going on, and that makes you wonder. Well, they were definitely after technology and things like that. So there's something about Antarctica. I don't know all the answers, but I really think that is a subject that really, really needs to be explored. And there's no reason to have that kind of a military presence in a place that has no life. What are we protecting against? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. And I know that a section of the of Antarctica is a no-fly zone. Well, why? If there's nothing there, why is there a no-fly zone? That doesn't make sense either.
Well, you brought up Hitler, and a lot of people don't really like to talk about Hitler, but I like to talk about Hitler because of the fact that he was big into the paranormal and the strange and UFOs and all this. So, and he sent, people all over the planet trying to dig up information to help one, I guess, to conquer the world and help him win the war. But, what information has his people found that has not been disclosed? Because they've had to find something.
Oh, absolutely. And then the ironic part of all of that is when the war was over, where did all of them go? Guess what?
Yeah.
They went to mass in the United States. So it is very interesting. It really is. So that they discovered a whole lot. We'll probably never know all of it, but certainly there was a mission there to find as much technology and as much information as they possibly could. And in fact, they even built kind of a UFO shape or form. And I've often wondered, did he escape? I mean, could that be a possibility? I've always wondered that. Did he have the capability to possibly build a time machine or something? I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't rule anything out. I question everything, and I don't accept anything unless it's been proven multiple times. Because just because somebody said that, oh yeah, he died. Oh, really? Okay. Well, I would like to see the proof. It just makes you wonder. It really does. How much technology did they get, and where did it go? I don't know. It's very fascinating.
It is fascinating, and there's just so many mysteries and unsolved cases, whether it be ancient civilizations, the paranormal, UFOs, and so forth, Bigfoot. It's
all related. Yeah, all.
It's all. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I wonder if it's. I feel like it's all related somehow, and I can't. The pieces that you put together, the pieces like Dave Spinks puts together, and other researchers, and what little bit I can contribute. It's just such a massive puzzle, but we know that the pieces go together somehow.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the person that says they believe in UFOs, but they don't believe in paranormal. I'm like, oh, how can you believe in one and not the other? Because honestly, it's all interrelated. And if nothing else, you have to accept the fact that everything is energy. So whether you are talking about energy from an alien technology, being able to manipulate energy to create force fields, to create portals, vortexes, or we're talking about energy that has left a living person and has gone on to the next life, whatever that next life is, that's still energy. So it really doesn't matter what we're talking about. Everything is interrelated, at least through the fact that it's all energy. If nothing else, we can say that.
I know. I've had this discussion with a friend of mine about, heaven, and much as I do in this area, we're taught that when you die, or if you're a Christian, you're a good person, you die, you go, once you've been resurrected, that you go to heaven, and if God chooses you to go to heaven. And you walk the streets of gold and so forth. And I'm like, forever. And they're like, yes. I'm like, do you realize how long forever is? And they're like, forever. I'm like, scientists have pinned it down to, trillions upon trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of years from now, to something like the 100th power, that before the last atom is gone. No more light, no more universe, no more nothing. Just everything's gone. I'm like, do you really what are you going to do in paradise for that long? I'm like, are you going to get to play poker?
Yeah.
Are you going to get to shoot pool? Are you going to get to drive? I mean, are you just hanging out forever? And they're like, yes. I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to go to heaven. I said, that's too boring, man. I got to be able to do something forever. I mean, we're a species that, that's all we know for first, let's say, 60, if you live long enough, 60, 70, 80 years of your, existence, is to work and do things. And then you die, and then you expect to just float around for trillions of years. I find that.
Yeah, no, I know, and it's really the $1 million question. What happens? What does happen when we die? Well, we know the energy from our body leaves us, but where does it go? Well, energy never dies. We know that. Einstein proved that. Energy never dies. It just goes to something else. Well, does it go to another life form? Does it go into space and become part of the consciousness of the whole, universe? Does it go to someplace like what you're saying, a heaven. I heard something the other day that just absolutely made my head spin, and then I just couldn't think about it anymore because it was a little too much. But I have to throw this out there. Have you ever heard that the moon, the dark side of the moon, and I hate even calling it the dark side of the moon because there really is no dark side of the moon, but the other side of the moon that we can't ever see, did you ever hear this theory that there's like this soul machine kind of thing on the other side of the moon that just kind of keeps kind of recycling like our energy back to Earth into like these different forms? Have you ever heard that?
No, that's interesting.
I hadn't either. I mean, I ran across that theory the other day. I was like, whoa, okay, that's a new one. I hadn't heard that one. I've heard a lot of things, but that one I had never heard, and I thought that was very interesting. But I don't know. Apparently this particular theory was, the moon is really not a moon, that the moon's actually an extraterrestrial, I don't know if you want to call it a ship, but lack of a better word. And that on the other side, that there's just all of this civilization and they've got all this technology and a lot of its energy recycling back to Earth so that there's just this constant control of, energy life forms just recycling itself. I don't know. I don't quite understand it myself, but it's something to think about, I guess.
But
and then, yeah, it is. It is. And then, of course, you have all your different belief systems, your different religions. You've got the reincarnation theory, which I think is an interesting theory as well. Then somebody once said, well, what if our spirit or our soul or our energy, whatever word you want to use, just shoots into space, and if you are strong enough of an energy, in other words, if your energy is a high frequency energy, it'll make it to the promised land or a heavenly type planet. But if it's not, then it kind of gets stuck here on Earth, and that's like the ghosts and the stuff that you see. Well, okay, if I ran with that theory for a second, how do we explain experiences that people have had seeing their loved ones or communicating with the dead that way? I mean, are we saying that those loved ones didn't have a high enough energy? And if that's the case, that's kind of a slap in the face. So I don't know. There's so many different possibilities, and I've really tried to pride myself in not closing my mind off to anything, but rather opening my mind to everything, because I don't think anybody can honestly say with 100% certainty they'd have all the answers, because I don't think anybody does have all the answers. I think we are still trying to figure things out, and until somebody can say this is exactly, and here's the proof, and here's the definitive proof, and all this stuff, I think we really should try to listen to all the possibilities, because there might be a shred of truth in all of it,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree. It's like with people that have that where they're dying and they say they see a tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel. And what I always said, what makes me think of that is they're actually being reborn, like reincarnated, because the light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, you're coming out of the birth canal.
Yeah. That's another theory. Exactly.
And when after I read a couple of people I know, and they're just like, damn, I never thought of that. I'm like, see, you're about to be reborn. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, well, what would happen that I came back? Was that baby able to be born? I said, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I think perhaps we have a choice. Maybe there is some free will there, It's fascinating. It really is, and it's just it's something that keeps me ticking, and I'm sure it keeps you ticking, and it keeps us energized in what we're doing to find the answers. I mean, I'm a truth seeker. I always have been, always will be. Till the day I die, I'm going to seek the truth. And, a lot of the theories that we talked about tonight, I'm sure some people are like, oh, my gosh, they're really out there now. And, yeah, some of them are kind of out there. I mean, some of these theories are really far-fetched to our common, history that we've been told and believed for so long. It is different. It's really different from what we've been taught. But until we really find with definitive answers what all of this is and where we're going and where we've been, I think we have to ask and wonder about all of these. Because if we don't, we're never going to progress. We're never going to evolve. We're going to go backwards and just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Oh, I agree 100% with you. I'm not a religious person. I was raised in a church, and oh Lord, but I asked questions as a teenager and child, and they kept shoving me under the floor, saying I was weird and all this shit. But my kids, they're grown now, and I taught them when they got older how I believed and my thought, and that they should, believe what they think and search for their own truth. Now my granddaughter, she's 8, and the other day I was at my mom's with her, and she was asking me these questions about God. She's like, Papa, did God kill people? I said, yes, he did. I said, you're looking in the Bible. It says plainly. I said, as a matter of fact, he killed the whole planet except for Noah and his family. She's like, what? I'm like, oh, yeah, God's a murderer. I said, but they don't teach you that in Bible school or church or none of that. They want to say he's forgiven and all that. I said, well, apparently he is, but, you got a strict rules you got to go by. And my mom, boy, I thought she was going to beat me in the head with the iron skillet. How dare you talk to that child that way? I said, I'm being honest with her, Mom. That's what's wrong with kids today. They want to know the truth, not some made up story. So, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely one of the ones that are wanting to seek the truth as well, and it's just the more, growing up, in West Virginia and stuff, I was very limited in my experiences with other religions, other cultures. It was just our little town, and, everybody pretty much believed the same thing, and you just didn't really question it or anything. But now that I have experienced so many things in so many different cultures, different people, different places, gosh, it's opened my mind to so many new possibilities that I can never go back to just thinking one way and one way only. I can't do it. There's no way. I know too many things now to just blanket one belief system over everything. I have to question everything.
Exactly. That's what I try to explain to my mom. I said, you just cannot. I said, there's so much out here, so many different ways of believing, so many different ways of doing things and eating and seeing and teaching. And I said, you just cannot say that this little area in Virginia is right. It ain't right. We don't know what's exactly right. We don't know what everyone else's is right. But you've got to expand and open up your mind.
Right. And the sad thing is, I think that's part of a lot of where, war and discrimination and all this other stuff really starts, is believing that our way is the only way and everybody else is wrong. I really would like for everybody to just be open-minded and say, you know what? I may not believe or understand everything that you do, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen. I'm not going to judge, but I'm going to listen. And that's really what I've done. I've listened to so many different people with different belief systems, different cultures, different everything. And what I take away from it is actually a common thread through all of it. And that's the funny thing, because everybody thinks their story is the right story. And actually, if they stopped and listened to everybody, they probably would find that there's an awful lot of things that are the same and very few that's not the same. They just might translate it a little bit differently, or, there might be a little tweak here, a little tweak there. But honestly, if you reread some of the stories and you reread some of the texts, you're going to find things such as the angels, the heavens, all these little references. Really what they're talking about are people or beings from other planets, and they didn't know how to explain all of that back then. They didn't have the knowledge that we have now to explain it. And so when you reread some of these texts through those eyes, some of it actually does kind of start to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've told a lot of people around here, but they still think I'm crazy, especially my family. Yeah, I've always questioned things. Like I said, ever since I was a kid, I would see things, hear things, and I'm like, what is that? What's causing that? Trying to figure it out, and a lot of it I couldn't. But still, yet it didn't make me feel like that there was a god or anything like that was involved. And when I started questioning,
are you
pardon?
RH negative?
No, I'm not RH negative. I'm O positive. What if that means anything?
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, I just, because a lot of the RH negatives that I've interviewed and I've encountered always feel like they don't belong to anything. Yeah. They're always questioning. It's kind of one of those personality traits, and so you always kind of just feel like almost like an outsider. Like you just feel like, I don't know, like you're the oddball. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were talking, I was like, I wonder if he's RH negative.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I've always felt like an outsider, and even as a grown man, I've traveled all over the country. Some places I've felt welcomed, especially when I go out west, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, in that area. I always feel like that's home. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I know the first trip I made out there to L.A. When I was going through New Mexico, in Arizona, I was just like, oh my God, I feel like I've been here before, and I had never been there. But I could feel it.
Maybe in a past life, maybe you were there.
Yeah, I kind of believe in the past lives. And as far as reincarnation and stuff like that, I don't know. I kind of lean that way because I'm like, I do believe the energy doesn't just disappear. I do believe we kind of recycle because, seriously, how can people for the first time in their lifetime get so lucky to be a billionaire and own everything, and then you got people that are so unlucky that they just nothing goes right and they live a terrible and hard life. Yeah,
exactly. They suffer and everything. That's a good question. I don't know. But I can tell you I've often felt the same way when I go out west, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, New Mexico. Oh, there's just something spiritual about that whole place. It's just so, I don't know. I just feel very connected. My husband and I actually went out west earlier this year. We went to Roswell. Have you ever been to Roswell?
Yes. When I drove a truck, I drove through it whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, well, we purposely went there, and I wanted to go there for some research for my book and things like that. And oh my gosh, it was such a cute place. I absolutely loved the town. I loved kind of the cheesy factor of all the little aliens. Even McDonald's and Domino's and every place else got into the theme of the aliens, which I thought was cute. But then we spent the whole day at the International UFO Museum, and that was fascinating. I love that. Did you get to go there, or?
No, I didn't get to go there. I drove through town. I stopped there one of the little restaurants, and the guy I was with, my co-driver, I told him the whole spiel about Roswell, and he didn't even know it. I'm like, what? Where are you from?
Is he under a rock?
Are you from another planet and you don't even know where we're at, what's going on? And he just didn't care about stuff like that. So, but I guess he had a good time sitting there and he just drooling about the whole place.
Oh, that's funny. It's such a pop culture thing that I'm kind of surprised you've never heard of it. Well, speaking of which, so, last month about the same time was the whole Storm Area 51, which I thought the whole thing was fascinating because I'm glad nothing happened, negatively with it. But I was really interested in how much media attention that got, and actually I think it kind of helped raise the awareness. What do you think?
I think it did too. I mean, there was a lot of people that were talking about going, and there was a lot of people that did show up. I thought there was a whole lot more that was going to show up than actually did.
Right. Well, I think they realized how far out in the middle of nowhere it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad it actually was a peaceful, event and nothing bad happened. But certainly, raising awareness and all that, that's a good thing. But really, I don't think Area 51 has what everybody thinks it has. I think it's been moved to Area 52. And who knows where else? Probably other places we don't know about.
Oh, I agree with you on that. All that's moved because, like I said, Area 51's just got too much attention now, and they're not going to keep nothing there.
No, they're not dumb. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't believe the time. It's almost over.
Yeah, that's what you're ready to say. You're ready to say, well, we're just about out of time, and I'm going to ask you, what are your plans for the rest of 2019? You got any projects that you're working on that you can talk about, and also how can people get in touch with you and get a copy of your book, and if they want to reach out as far as got any questions or any concerns or thoughts they want to give you a Yahoo at, how can I get in touch with you?
Well, probably the best place for everything, whether it's to ask me a question, see what I'm up to, see what events I have coming up, books, magazines, things like that. All of that can be found on my website, which is theUFOwoman.com. So www.theUFOwoman.com. And I have a new subscription portion of the site that has my weekly events that I do at Books A Million. I reproduce all those videos with all of the new content that I have, research. I have other types of videos that I put on there, and it's updated weekly. So it's kind of a cool way to get some insider information. It's $8.95, so it's like less than Netflix. And so it's a good resource if you're wanting to get some more information. I do put a lot of information out there about RH negative, so if that's something that interests you, definitely you want to follow me. I'm on Instagram as well, The UFO Woman. You can also follow UFOCon, which is theufocon.com, and that's our mega conventions that we're going to be bringing starting November 9th, but then we have several coming up in 2020. So be checking that out for location information. It's not going to just be in Florida. We're actually going to be growing in other places across the country. So definitely be looking for that. You can find my book on Amazon, but if you would like a autographed version or personalized version, you can certainly order that through the UFOwoman.com. Send me a little note, send me a little email if it's a special gift that you want to give somebody, or if it's just for yourself. Let me know. Shoot me a note, and I'll be more than happy to, address the book to whomever you would like.
Okay. Well, I got to get you back on the show. We'll work out after the holidays. I'll shoot you a message and see if we can work out something for next year. And like I said, we'll go more deeper into the RH negative or anything as far as UFO or paranormal, because I can talk all night.
Same here. So many things, different topics.
Well, when you get a West Virginia girl and a Virginia boy together, you better watch out because they're going to be some talking.
Yes. Yeah, as long as it's not football now. We can't be talking about football because we might not be on the same page there.
Yeah, we know not to discuss sports.
Exactly.
If you're Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Virginia, not us neighbors know not to talk about football with each other. We know that.
Exactly. Yeah, we mustn't ever talk about football.
That's right.
Oh, that's great. Well, Rodney, thank you so much for having you on your show. It's just been a delightful evening. I really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully your listeners and your followers would like to know more about me and what I've got going on. And I'm a very hands-on kind of person. I love to talk to everybody and answer as many questions as I can. And if I don't have the answers, I'm going to find out as much as I can and try to get the answers for you. So.
Sounds like me. Well, Melissa, I do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an honor, and like I said, we'll work out something and get you on next sometime early next year, and also see if we can get you up to Phantom Fest next year when we do it again for 2020.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I would love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You all have a great weekend. Good night, and happy Halloween. And don't eat too much candy because I got a big old bag sitting here, and I'm a fat boy, and it ain't working out too good.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, happy Halloween, and 2 weeks until UFO Con, so it's going to be an exciting time for us down here. And look forward to hearing from everybody and getting back on your show in 2020.
All right. Well, y'all have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Well, that's it for us, man. I want to thank Melissa. I hope I did it. I keep calling her Melissa, but it's Melisa. See, I can't see. It's West Virginia, Kentucky. Man, we say you can't. Certain ways we say things we just can't break. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. Had nothing but respect for it. Had a great time. Such a great show. Like I said, we'll work out something, get her back after the first of the year. Our guest for next Thursday night, which will be Halloween night, will be, let me see here, Larry Batson, the animal guy. It'll be our Halloween special. We're going to talk about Halloween and Bigfoot, hopefully a little bit there. So I appreciate everyone. Y'all have a great weekend. Have a good night. And let's see if I can find this. Oh, there it is. End of the show. Bye. That's it for us tonight. I want to thank everyone that took the time to listen in. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Vibe Radio Network and to Ryan for putting up with us. Also to all the first responders and our men and women in the armed services. Thank you for your service and the sacrifices that you and your families make every day to keep our great nation safe. Tune in next week to another exciting show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone can go to our Facebook page Within the Chaos, and don't forget to like our page to see upcoming guests along with past shows, postings, or you can also go to my website at www.blackdiamondps.org or blogtalkradio.com/Vibe Radio Network. Also, we have a YouTube channel, so go to YouTube, look up Within the Chaos for past shows. Thanks again. Until next week, everyone have a safe weekend and have a good night. And love you all. Be careful out there.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. Those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!